أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. It's the last session of this beautiful surah, Surah Maryam, surah number 19. And I'll start from ayah number 87. Now, prior to 87, in the ayah number 86, and before that also in 85, it was mentioned, يَوْمَ نَحْشُرُ الْمُتَّقِينَ إِلَى الرَّحْمَنِ وَفْدًا. Yawma, on the day, that is the day of judgment. Nahshuru, we shall gather the God-wary, the muttaqeen, ila rahmani wafda, towards the all-beneficent on mounts, and confronting them, وَنَسُوقُ الْمُجْرِمِينَ إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ وِرْدًا. Nasuqu means will be dragged and drive away the guilty. Nasuqul mujrimeen are the guilty. Ila jahannama wirda, as a thirsty herd towards the Jahannam, towards the hell. Wafda, that was mentioned in the previous ayah, it means a group of newcomers who come on pilgrimage, like you say to those who are going on a ziyarat, wafd, delegation, wafd. So here wafda means a group of newcomers or a group of pilgrims, or those who have come for ziyarat, or those who've come to seek help. And the word wird means thirst. Now the messages that we get here from this ayah, in many of the riwayat also, for example, you must have heard in one of these riwayat that are from Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alayha, she says someone who takes prayers easy will have 15 different kinds of punishments. Some here in this world, some at the time of death, some in the grave, some when he will be raised on the day of judgment. And then one of those statements says that someone who takes prayers easy will die of thirst. Now that thirst, what does it mean? Now over here in this ayah also a similar meaning has been mentioned here. Now the messages that we get are the scenes of the day of judgment. They are all memorable. Yawma, everyone will remember. And that it is very important how the inmates of the heaven are presented and how the inmates of the hell they will be made to enter. So those to whom the heaven will be assigned, they will be honored and presented in a dignified way. And as for these criminals and the wrongdoers, says nasuqul mujrimeen, means they will be driven, they will be dragged. Nasuqul mujrimeen. Now more important than paradise, the heaven, is the divine mercy, of which the paradise is one of the manifestations and the reflections of God, where he says that Ar-Rahman has been mentioned instead of Al-Jannah. Says Ila Ar-Rahman, not Ila Al-Jannah. Ila Ar-Rahman, to the merciful God. And it is upon the merciful God as to how He wants to deal and handle these muttaqeen. Yawma nahshurul muttaqeen, the day when we will assemble, gather the muttaqeen, the God-wary, ila rahmani wafda, towards the merciful, towards the Rahman, and on mounts they will be taken. Now, the other thing that we learn from this ayah is that the righteous or the guests of God, wafda means those delegations, they will be taken as that, in that honorable way. But the guilty, the wrongdoers, are seen off with humility. Says nasuqu, driven away, dragged. And as for the muttaqeen, they will enter the heaven with special ceremonies and will be greeted by the angels. Nahshurul muttaqina ila rahman. The key to the heaven is taqwa. Nahshurul muttaqeen. So why will they be taken and presented and honored in the heaven? Because of their taqwa. Taqwa also, it was mentioned repeatedly. First of all, it's the iman that a person has in the oneness of God in the day of judgment and in the risalat, imamat and the justice of the Almighty Allah. So that is taqwa, the initial stage of taqwa. Level 2 taqwa means, in addition to the belief system that I have, I abide by every wajib and I put away every haram. Then I will be called a muttaqi, that is adil, that is just. The next ayah, number 87, لا يملكون الشفاعة إلا من اتخذ عند الرحمن عهدا. No one will have the power to intercede, shafa'at. No one will have that ability to intercede with Allah, إلا من اتخذ عند الرحمن عهدا, except for him who has taken a covenant with the Almighty, with the All-Merciful, with the Rahman. So there is shafa'at that is definite, and people can mediate for others to Allah. But then there is a criteria as well. من اتخذ عند الرحمن عهدا. So they have an ahd, a covenant with the Almighty. Those who have abided by that covenant, they will have that power and the ability to intercede and to be a shafi'. Now the points that we have in this ayah are that Quran sets a criteria for intercession. And it is not as such that anyone can take anything and anyone as an intercessor or a shafi'. On the day of judgment, the kuffar, they will knock on every other door and ask and seek refuge from every other person, but they will hear a negative answer. لا يملكون الشفاعة. They will not have the ability or the power of shafa'at إلا من اتخذ عند الرحمن عهدا. Now, maybe the meaning of this ahd over here be the covenant of servitude and staying away from shaitan, as Quran has mentioned in another ayah in Surat Yasin. It says, Alam a'ahad ilaykum ya bani Adam an la ta'budu shaitan. Says, did I not charge you, O children of Adam, that you should not serve the shaitan? Innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. Surely he is your open enemy, your evident, your known enemy. Wa an a'buduni hadha siratum mustaqim. And that you should serve me, you should worship me, you should be obedient to me. This is the right way. And in another place says, يَوْمَئِذٍ لَا تَنْفَعُ الشَّفَاعَةُ إِلَّا مَنْ أَذِنَ لَهُ الرَّحْمَنُ وَرَضِيَ لَهُ قَوْلًا. And on that day there shall be no intercession, no shafa'at available except of him whom the Beneficent Allah allows and whose word He is pleased with. So the criteria of Shafa'at also is with Allah. He has made a criteria. Based upon that, there will be certain beings who will act as a Shafi', and for that also, that Shafi' is there in place. But then for me also to get help from that Shafi' and that Shafa'at, there should be something in me as well. Like for example, if you want to go and buy something and you've got some of the money in your pocket, and then you go to the store, the remaining money is not there. You don't have all of it. Something that's worth $1,000, you have $700. They won't give it to you unless you pay the $300. You call your bank if you have a good standing with your credit and tell them this is the case and I want to buy something, I'm short of funds. They will increase the limit. If that standing is there, if you have had a credit with the bank, and if you were good with the bank as well, they will increase the limit and you will be able to buy it. Shafa'at also is similar, that I have to have something in me, that connection with Allah, the obedience that I have had in my life. Some shortfalls, some shortcomings were there, and they also were not intentional. Now when I ask Him to forgive and to fulfill and raise this drop that I have in my performance, He will accept. But if someone is totally faithless, he was against the Almighty intentionally throughout his life, knowingly he sinned, knowingly he was stubborn, then what likelihood is there for him to benefit from the Shafa'at? So Shafa'at has a criteria. In riwayat, now in this ayah that said يَوْمَئِذٍ لَا تَنْفَعُ الشَّفَاعَةُ إِلَّا مَنْ أَذِنَ لَهُ الرَّحْمَنُ وَرَضِيَ لَهُ قَوْلًا. On that day there shall be no intercession available except for him whom the Beneficent Allah allows and whose word He is pleased with. In riwayat, the ahd that was mentioned in the previous ayah, if you see the previous ayah, it said إِلَّا مَنِ اتَّخَذَ عِنْدَ الرَّحْمَنِ عَهْدًا. Ahd means a covenant, an agreement, or a truce, a pact, whatever you say. Now in riwayat, the ahd has been interpreted as several things, including one, it is the commitment to the wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam and the A'imma alayhim assalam. It was mentioned the other day on the day of Ghadir that Rasulullah, he was given he was invited, he was taken to Masjid al-Aqsa, and there Jibreel is there. He recites the azan and all of the prophets are present, all the souls of all of the prophets, 124,000. Rasulullah leads and they join him in prayers. And after the salat, Rasulullah asks them, Ala ma bu'istum, why were you all chosen as a prophet? All of them said, because of the wilayat of you and Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, we were chosen and selected as prophets. So that is that ahd, that is that allegiance. So the first meaning of this ahd, it's that wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam and the Imams alayhim salam. And the other thing is that the will at the time of death, that a person, that he gathers everyone around him, and there he says La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and there he admits the haqqaniyat of the hell and the heaven, this and that the commitment that he has towards the daily prayers, that is also ahd. So his testifying before others that he believes in the one God, and that Rasulullah is the messenger of God, and that he believes in the hell and the heaven and all the divine teachings that we have, that is an ahd. Now that ahd he is fulfilling here, testifying before he departs. So, and the third meaning of that ahd was the prayers, the commitment that we have with the Almighty God, that we will abide by this command of His and keep up prayers, establish them, offer them, say them. Now again, the messages that we get from this beautiful ayah is that intercession, it is systematic. And it is under the supervision of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. It isn't as such that blindly, without any criteria, they will be a Shafi'. Amir al-Mu'mineen, although he is a distributor of the hell and the heaven, but then he has also been given some guidelines. Based upon those guidelines, his shafa'at is there. Without those guidelines, that shafa'at is also not there. Just like that example, someone who hasn't got anything whatsoever. Now he wants to buy that $1,000 TV from the store. They won't give it to him because he hasn't got anything on him. Okay. The shafa'at, it is systematic and it is under the supervision of Allah. La yamlikuna shafa'ata illa ma, says that shafa'at, He has it. No one can hold it but who He wills and who He wishes and desires. The other thing is that no one has the power or the right to intercede himself. He cannot, unless Allah appoints him. Allah makes him a shafi'. La yamlikun. Intercession and shafa'at is a manifestation of the vast divine mercy of Allah. عند الرحمن عهدا. And special and committed individuals have the right to intercede from Allah. So there are people who have been chosen by Him. إِلَّا مَنِ اتَّخَذَ عِنْدَ الرَّحْمَنِ عَهْدًا. So those selected people are the ones who the merciful God has selected. مَنِ اتَّخَذَ, He has taken them to be your shafi'ah. Now, ayah number 88 says, وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ الرَّحْمَنُ وَلَدًا. They say that the All-Beneficent has taken a son. Ayah number 89, لَقَدْ جِئْتُمْ شَيْئًا إِدًّا. You have certainly advanced something hideous. Idda, the word, it means a great munkar, meaning a great sin, something that was forbidden, bad, a sin, something very ugly. لَقَدْ جِئْتُمْ شَيْئًا إِدًّا. You have certainly done something very hideous, something very bad, very ugly. Now this verse, it includes many groups, including the mushrikeen, the polytheists, who consider angels to be the daughters of God. When in Surat, I think An'am, says, وَاتَّخَذَ مِنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنَاثًا, that the mushrikeen, they considered angels to be the daughters of God, and for himself taken daughters as from among the angels. And the Jews who considered Uzair a child of God, and the Jew says, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ عُزَيْرُ ibn Allah. So the Jews, they said Uzair is the son of God. Christians, they said that the angels, they are the daughters of God. وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى الْمَسِيحُ ibn Allah. And then the Christians, they said Jesus, Prophet Isa, is the son of God. So in Surah Tawbah, all these three ayat have been mentioned. Now what we learn from these statements is that idda means something very ugly. With these belief systems they have, or these statements they have uttered regarding the Almighty God, they have done something very bad, very ugly. So believing in God, to having children, is a baseless and a very ugly statement. Shay'an idda. God having a child is not a sign of perfection, but it is a flaw, a defect. Says shay'an idda, it is something very ugly and bad. Ayah number 90, تكاد السماوات يتفطرن منه وتنشق الأرض وتخر الجبال هدا. The skies are about to be torn apart at the statement of this, and the earth to split open, and the mountains to collapse into bits. أن دعوا للرحمن ولدا, that they should ascribe a son to the All-Beneficent. وما ينبغي للرحمن أن يتخذ ولدا, and it does not behove them, the All-Beneficent, to take a son. إن كل من في السماوات والأرض إلا آتي الرحمن عبدا. Ayah number 93, there is none in the skies and the earth, but he comes to the All-Beneficent as a servant. So repeatedly in all of these ayat, you see so many times the name of the Almighty as Rahman has been repeatedly mentioned. Now the points that we get here is that hadda means fall, to decline. So the issue of nature's reaction confronting facts and haqa'iq has been mentioned many times in Quran. Now here when it said that takadu samawatu yatafattarna, soon you will see that the skies, they will tear apart. Watanshaqqul ardh, and you will see the earth will split open. Watakhirrul jibalu hadda, and the mountains, they will collapse into bits. Why will that happen? Says the issue of the nature's reaction confronting facts and haqa'iq has been mentioned over here. He says that in one place, some stones, they fall from mountains out of fear of God. وَإِنَّ مِنْهَا لَمَا يَهْبِطُ مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ. Surely there are some of these stones which will fall down due to the fear of Allah. Or elsewhere in this Suratul Hashr, towards the end of it, says that وَلَوْ أَنزَلْنَا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ عَلَى جَبَلٍ لَرَأَيْتَهُ خَاشِعًا مُتَصَدَّعًا مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ. That had we sent down this Quran on a mountain, you would have certainly seen it falling down, splitting asunder because of the fear of Allah. Now the messages that we get from this ayah are that sin, it can disrupt the system of the universe. We have riwayat. As a result of excessive sinning, certain sins are such, like theft, like adultery, like cheating, for example, or chastity, which is removed from the society. These are sins wherein Allah, He takes away rain and those barakat that pour from the skies, as a result of which there is drought. And there are sins like adultery and all these sins that are being made public nowadays, and the evil of that is being removed. As a result of that also there will be disasters, natural disasters that will come into existence. We have riwayat from Ma'sumin where they have itemized all these different sins, as a result of which what the consequences of that will be. So here says takadu samawatu yatafattarna, since they can disrupt the system of the universe. The skies are about to tear apart and the earth will split open. God, He created this universe for man. And if man deviates, the universe, if it falls apart, it is not unreasonable. That can happen. Everything has been made for you, for man, and man is disobeying God. So if he wants, he can just shatter everything. تَكَادُ السَّمَاوَاتُ يَتَفَطَّرْنَ مِنْهُ. The greatest corruption, the greatest fasad in the universe is a corrupt belief that they should ascribe a son to the All-Beneficent. Says, دَعَوْا لِلرَّحْمَنِ وَلَدًا, that God having a child means that God needs someone for his survival through his generation, seeks help through his son, through his offspring, is in need and is suffering loneliness, so he needs someone. Whence the Almighty, He is free and pure and away from all this. مَا يَنْبَغِي لِلرَّحْمَنِ أَنْ يَتَّخِذَ وَلَدًا, says it does not behoove the All-Beneficent to take a son. It does not suit him, it does not benefit him, it is not for him to have a son. Now this entire universe is under the dominion of God and returns to Him. إِلَّا آتِ الرَّحْمَنِ عَبْدًا. So the entire creation, all of them, every being is the abd, is the servant, is in the servitude of the Almighty. So it comes to the All-Beneficent as a servant. So the universe and all its creatures are under the command of God, and they are all His servants. And so why do you address His servant as His child? وَمَا يَنْبَغِي. That is not good. That doesn't suit Him. That someone who is His creation, you say that he is His child, His dependent. لَقَدْ أَحْصَاهُمْ وَعَدَّهُمْ عَدًّا. Certainly He has counted them all and numbered them precisely. وَكُلُّهُمْ آتِيهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْدًا. And each one of them will come to Him alone on the day of resurrection. Ayah number 95. وَكُلُّهُمْ آتِيهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْدًا. And every one of them will come to Him alone on the day of judgment. Now the messages that we get here are that He has accurate statistics of all the components of the universe. لَقَدْ أَحْصَاهُمْ وَعَدَّهُمْ عَدًّا. Certainly He has counted them all and numbered them precisely. And the knowledge that the Almighty has, it isn't as such that He has got just the general knowledge and then the main things that He needs to know, kulli, no. He knows He has the detailed knowledge. The minor issues He knows. He knows the count of my breaths. He knows the count of the leaves. He knows which tree, which leaf, when it will dry, when it has fallen. He knows. He has got the law in this dua, namaz al-ghufayla, you recite. لا تسقط من ورقة إلا يعلمها. Every leaf of a tree that falls, He knows. إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا. He knows. He's got that itemized knowledge, detailed knowledge of everything in His entire creation. Now this means that it is a warning that every bit of our action also is being saved, and we are accountable. Every action of ours, every thought of ours, every word of mine, it will be measured, it will be judged, and it is being recorded. The other message that we get from this ayah is that beings are all limited within the parameters, very mahdud. عَدَّهُمْ عَدًّا. Although the resurrection is for everyone, but everyone will be thinking of himself, and it seems that man is all alone even there. Here in this dunya he is all alone, and then in the akhirah also he is going to be all alone. There is no one with him, he himself. And when he sees the horror of the day also, he is going to leave the little bit of an association and attachment and bond that he has towards his child, maybe his parents, maybe even that will be lost. That also will be seized away. He will just run away from them. وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا فُرَادًا كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. In Surat Al-An'am, the Almighty, He says that certainly you have come to us all alone, just as we created you first. So when I created you, you were alone. You've returned to me also alone. On the day of judgment, all family, economic, social affiliations, party affiliations, etc., All of them will be severed. All of them will break. Nothing will remain. Farda, all alone. And on the day of judgment, wealth, children, friends, etc. will not be useful. So again over there we see farda. وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا فُرَادًا. That is, certainly you have come to us alone, just like we created you all alone. Ayah number 96. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. A beautiful ayah. Again, the Mubarak name of the Almighty Rahman has been repeated here. Indeed, those who have faith and do righteous deeds, the all-beneficent Rahman will endear them to His creation. Now this is something that you've seen a lot, I've seen a lot, that many a times you find that people, they die, no one knew them. But then the funeral they have, it's such honorable and such dignified. Although they may not have visited you, you may not have visited them, they may not have given anything to you, nothing whatsoever, no interaction. But then you are taken to their funeral and you are bound to speak about them. You are bound to testify their goodness, their beauty. How does all this happen has been mentioned in this ayah. A few years ago, it was in the early millennium when I was in London, and internet wasn't available like we have now. It was just emails that were being sent via the internet, and people were still with phones and mobile phones. Someone called me from one of those remote cities of England, remote meaning that it's Southend-on-Sea, the city's name, and it's all banking institutes. All the banks that are there in the UK are there in that city. And no Muslims live there. Someone called me, and it was a Friday. He said, it was Thursday. He called and he said, I have had 2 heart attacks, massive, and if the third one comes, it's fatal and I'll leave. Says, I've been living here in this city for the past 30 years, no Muslims, no mosque, no graveyards, nothing whatsoever, and I'm just all alone here. My wife is here, she's also a convert, and a child I have, he is disabled, so all alone. And I want to be buried according to the Sharia, and I don't know what to do. I told him the first thing that came to my mind, why don't you write a will? Write a will and then make it legal so that they don't take you to the general funeral graveyards and bury you like every other person. Write a will, you can appoint me as your wasi, and I'll take the charge if anything happens, if I was alive then. He got happy. He went to the library, got a will, wrote the will, called me on Friday and said that I've done everything, the will is ready, and today it's a holiday here and it's a long weekend. Monday is also a holiday, so Tuesday will be the first day that I'll go and get this to my solicitor, my lawyer, and get it registered, and you will be official and my wasi, my custodian after me. I said, okay, well and good. During this weekend, I got phone calls from Pakistan. So many phone calls, and I couldn't recognize who these people are. Sometime a lady calling, sometime a man calling me. And they said, my brother has passed away, and so on. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Then another person called, and he said, this is the situation, this is the story. A few days ago, my brother, he called you. He had 2 heart attacks, and he said that he has appointed you as his wasi. But then it hasn't been made legal, and he has had his 3rd and the fatal heart attack, and he has passed away. Now what can you do? So everything was closed. I spoke to the hospital, and they They accepted not to perform post-mortem on him and then send the body, release the body and send it to London to get it buried. So everything was done very swiftly. A hearse was sent to them, 3 hours journey, and the body was brought here. And then it was washed. It was Friday again while the body was released, and we got it, and the funeral was done. Someone who had no one in that city, no one, and his desire was to be buried as a Muslim with all those rituals that we have. And he said that in those 30 years that he was living there, he just had some cassettes, some recorded majalis that he used to listen to, those 10 days of Muharram and Azaa of Imam Hussein, and this was his desire. The body comes here, and a funeral such dignified is observed for him. About 300 people who had participated in the Jummah prayers, they come into his funeral, say prayers on him, and I saw him for the first time in the coffin. That is what we find in this ayah. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Allah makes them Aziz, Allah makes them beloved. So that is the task of Allah. And we have seen many a times, and whenever human beings with faith and righteous, they die, even the careless and the fasiq, they fall into sorrow, and they mourn and they weep, and they cherish their memory. They visit their graves, they tell memories about them to others. All this is due to the pure nature and that perfection of human friendship. So the criteria mentioned in this ayah are two things. Amanu wa amilus salihat. Have that iman, have those good actions, the rest is upon Allah. He will make you aziz, He will make you beloved. So whoever submits to the Almighty Allah and remembers Him, He says, Fazkuruni azkurkum. You remember me, I will remember you. And it has been reported from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam that the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam is the reward that God gives to the believers with righteous deeds. Likewise is the love and the devotion of the believers to Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi. The messages that we get from this ayah are that amanu wa amilu, that is faith without action and action without faith, they are of no use. So we need both of them. We need iman and we need a'mal salih. So faith and good deeds are the key to popularity, to fame, to being beloved, to being loved among the people. And إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Now the other indication that has been mentioned over here in this ayah that we get to is that whenever we see that our popularity and fame is diminishing, it is dropping, there we should analyze our belief and actions to see what is going wrong. Why is that drop? Because God's promise is certain and He will never violate what He has said. He says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Those who have faith and those who do good, I will make them mahbub, I will make them beloved. Now, to be loved is by God, سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ. Hearts are also in the hands of the Almighty. To be loved is a divine mercy that He has bestowed on the believers and the righteous. سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ. Your work may not be appreciated today, but by patience and persistence, your work will bear fruit in the future. سَيَجْعَلُ. Yes, sir, it's for the future. سَيَجْعَلُ. The merciful God will make you mahbub and beloved soon. And for mu'mineen, it is here in this world and in the akhirah. So popularity, fame, izzat is one of the divine gifts and rewards in the world. سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Believers and righteous people, in addition to the reward of the hereafter, are also rewarded in this world. سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Ayah number 97. فَإِنَّمَا يَسَّرْنَاهُ بِلِسَانِكَ لِتُبَشِّرَ بِهِ الْمُتَّقِينَ وَتُنذِرَ بِهِ قَوْمًا لُدًّا. Indeed, we have made it simple in your language, so that you may give good news thereby to the God-weary, to the muttaqeen, and warn with it a disputatious lot. Now the point that we get from this ayah is that ludda, the word lud, it means intense enmity. The messages that we have here is simplicity. Eloquence is a Quranic method of guidance. Speak simple, speak easy, use easy language so that you convey the message, and that is the message of Quran. Of course, eloquence is required when you speak to someone, and also speech should be firm and fluent. Uhkimat ayatu. Quran says, Quran, it's muhkam and it is strong. At the same time, it is easy and simple to understand. So clear expression, it is due to divine grace. Says, yassarna bilisanik. We have made it simple in your language. Each group must be spoken to in a specific way. To some people you speak with litubashira, you give them good news. Some people you don't speak to them like that. You have to litunzira, means that you have to warn them. To the pious, you speak to them in a beautiful language, you give them the good news. But with the enemies, you have to speak to them in the form of a warning. Over here, both of them, they have been mentioned. It says, فَإِنَّمَا يَسَّرْنَاهُ بِاللِّسَانِكَ لِتُبَشِّرَ بِهِ الْمُتَّقِينَ. That is, you give the good news to the muttaqeen. وَتُنْزِرَ بِهِ قَوْمًا لُدًّا. Now those stubborn lot, to them you don't speak to them with kindness. To them you have to be tough. You have to speak to them in a warning tone. And the last ayah, وَكَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا قَبْلَهُمْ مِنْ قَرْنٍ هَلْ تُحِسُّ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ أَوْ تَسْمَعُ لَهُمْ رِكْزًا. How many a generation we have destroyed before them. Can you descry any one of them or hear from them so much as a murmur? Many points are there over here. This noble verse is a source of relief and consolation for the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and promises him that your stubborn enemies will soon be destroyed. Just like the arrogant, stubborn have been perished in the past, your stubborn enemies also will be destroyed. The word rikz here means a faint, hidden sound. So do you hear anything of those stubborn lot who have passed away, passed in the history? You don't hear anything from them. They are all gone. All those arrogant rulers, all those oppressors, all those tyrants, nothing of them has remained. Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, in response to Jabir, about asking, when he inquired about this ayah, Imam says the destroyed people are the Bani Umayyah. They will have lost hope and they will have this fear and despair. Jabir, he says that, will that happen? The strong lot, Bani Umayyah, will they go towards that direction where they have a head-on collision, and all that fame, all that might, all that power, all this charm they have? Imam says, yes, very possible, and soon you will see it happen. And it happened. Nothing from that Bani Umayyah remained. Now the messages we get here are that the destruction of the stubborn people is a sign of the seriousness of the warnings of the Almighty Allah in the Holy Quran. It says, وَتُنْزِرَ بِهِ قَوْمًا لُدًّا وَكَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا. It is a warning to those stubborn lot. وَكَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا. And how many we have destroyed. And the destruction of the enemies of truth also is one of the divine ways of how Allah, He deals with them. وَكَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا. How many we destroyed. And then history, it is a mirror of a lesson. It says, هَلْ تُحِسُّ أَوْ تَسْمَعُ. Do you feel, do you listen? The faintest of these hymns and hums or sounds, can you hear? Can you hear one of them? Don't hear any of them. It says all of them were removed, all of them were gone, all of them are gone. Nothing remains. What remains? وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. That what remains is the existence of your Lord. That what remains is whoever is, to whatever extent, connected and bonded to the existence of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala remains. وسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Ya Allah, we recited this surah to the best of our abilities. We tried to understand all the ayats, all of these beautiful words, your names, names of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the optimism that was given to us in this surah, the hope that was generated through these ayat, right from the first ayat where Prophet Zakaria, Hazrat Maryam, Prophet Ibrahim, Yahya, and all these noble souls of yours were mentioned. We got happy and all that hope was triggered in us. Allah between us, Quran and Ahlul Bayt never ever come across a moment of separation. Ya Allah, these ayats be a shafi' for every one of us in the Akhirah. And by these ayat, Allah, all those who have requested for du'as, their du'as be granted. By these ayat that were recited here, all those who are ill and ailing, they be blessed and graced with shifa. Whatever we learnt here in this surah and from these ayat, a share and a reward of that be given to all of the marhumeen related to every one of us, and in particular that first marhum who was a mu'min, as a result of whose presence we are all classified as the mu'mineen of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allah hasten in the return of our Imam, our Master, our Hujjah, and count us all among the best of His servants. التماس دعاء. Thank you. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.